Hello everyone, it's Jimmy here. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to review a lens that I'm actually quite familiar with. As you can see, I've got quite a few copies here, and that is the Leica 50mm rigid. But this time around, I'm actually going to review a replica of that lens made by Light Lens Lab. So as you can see here, this is a black paint version of the lens. I've also got another black paint rigid here, which is a semi-gloss black paint done by Optical Camera. As you can see, the paint job on the Light Lens Lab is actually much more of a matte finish than a semi-glossy or glossy finish. So it pairs really well with the Leica M6 reissue because this is also a matte black paint M-body, which means it brasses, but it's not as shiny as the Leica MP. And they pair perfectly together. So why all the fuss about the color of the lens? Well, because this lens is in a bit of a tricky scenario that the Leica 50mm rigid is not too expensive to begin with. Granted, its price has skyrocketed in the last few years, but you can still find a relatively affordable copy in the secondhand market simply because there are just so many of them. And lots of people actually buy this lens not just for the classic rendering, but also for the fact that it's simply a beautiful lens to pair with your Leica camera. And as you might know, all Leica black paint, especially original black paint lenses or bodies, are really expensive. So really the value proposition here for the Light Lens Lab lens is the black paint one, because the original one might be out of reach for the majority of the people. So that's why I started with the paint job on this lens. So yeah, it's quite a unique choice they made here that they didn't make it a glossy black paint, which might pair better with the later Leica glossy black paint bodies that they've released. So today's video is going to be a little bit different in terms of format. I'm first going to show you a few sets of comparison photos with the original Leica 50mm rigid. And then we're going to go over the build quality and handling. And last but not the least, I'll show you a few sample photos. All right, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so in this set of photos, as you can see, these shots are all taken backlit. And I will say, in this scene, the performance of the Light Lens Lab lens is quite similar to the original, despite a few differences that stands out quite obviously. For one, at the maximum aperture, both show a bit of color fringing, but the original Leica rigid shows green fringing, while the Light Lens Lab one shows purple fringing. And two, there's a bit of a color difference wide open. The Light Lens Lab lens is a little bit cooler, and as you can see, especially the blue color here on the original Leica rigid lens is quite muted. What's interesting is that when you stop the lens down, the color difference is much smaller, and actually the Leica becomes a little bit more vibrant when it stops down. Notice that I've set 5100K, which is daylight light balance, on my camera, so it's not an auto white balance issue. Rather, it's the difference in colors of the lens itself. And it really puzzles me why the color shifts so much when the lenses are stopped down, especially on the original Leica. So yeah, those are the major differences. In terms of out of focus rendering, these two lenses are almost indistinguishable. And sharpness wise, I would say the original rigid has a little bit of an upper hand, but not by much, at least here at the center of the frame. Alright, let's check out the next set of photos. Okay, so in this set of photos, we mainly shoot indoor with a 5K light source, and as you can see, there's not much of a color difference between these two lenses in control lighting conditions, but there's a huge sharpness difference. The original Leica Summicron Rigid is quite a bit sharper at the edge of the frame, especially when stop it down to f2.8. It's already quite sharp, and at f4, it's tech sharp. You can already use it as a landscape lens with edge-to-edge sharpness. But the Light Lens Lab lens didn't improve much, even at f4. And keep in mind that these shots are taken on a tripod, and I have set a shutter timer, so there's no way it's caused by a shaky hand. So yeah, I was quite a bit disappointed by the Light Lens Lab lens in this comparison. It might just be copy variance, I don't know, but at least on this lens, on my copy here, the difference is quite big. Alright, let's proceed to the next set of photos. Now, as you can see here, the Light Lens Lab Rigid focuses all the way down to 0.7 meters, which is quite a bit closer than the Leica. So that's a huge advantage to the lens here, and that might be another reason why you might consider this lens, aside from the black paint options. So yeah, that's the optical comparison part. Honestly, this time around, the 50 Rigid from Light Lens Lab didn't perform as good as I have imagined. Okay, so in this next session, we're going to mainly talk about handling and fit and finish. Now this lens is made out of brass, so it's very, very heavy. And the aperture action is very similar to the 8-element that we've tried, meaning it's very good. Better than, I would say, 90% of the Leica lenses out there. And the focus ring is smooth, but not as smooth as the Leica or some of the Voigtlander lenses. Other than that, you get metal front and rear caps, which is really well made, by the way. Overall, the build quality and fit and finish is just on par with the Leica. Not even joking here. Better than, I would say, most of the Voigtlander lenses and some other third-party lenses, definitely. Now, let's take a look at the Leica. There's a few different versions of Leica 50mm Rigid. For example, this one is the first edition. As you can see, compared to the second edition, the focus ring is a little bit different, right? And also, this one only comes in one scale. Ironically, it's in Imperial, so not so fortunate for people outside of the United States. This one comes in both metric and Imperial, which is much nicer. But the optical design of these two lenses are identical, so there shouldn't be any, performance differences. And this is what I like about the Rigid, is the sound it makes when you turn the aperture ring. Let's take a listen. It's almost like a super high precision watch, and it just feels so good turning the ring here. This is one rare time I would say the Leica aperture ring feels better than the Light Lens Lab one, and the focus ring is also smoother on the Leica. So yeah, that's that. And here is the CL8 and fully black painted by Kento camera. And let's take a listen. Oh, it feels even better. And simply so smooth. Yeah, so this definitely feels quite a bit better than the Light Lens Lab version. So yeah, here you have it. The Light Lens Lab rigid is well built. It's beautiful to look at. I like the matte black paint personally, but the optical performance of this lens is not up to the standard of the original rigid, which is a bit of a shame. So yeah, if you need that 0.7 meter close focus distance, and if you want a black rigid lens to pair with your camera, it's not a bad option still. But keep in mind that the corner or edge sharpness of the lens might not be as good. So yeah, let's finish today's video off with some simple photos I've taken. And I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.